Hello everyone, my name's Brody, and on today's episode of Brody's Learning Adventure, we'll be learning about central ideas and arguments. A central idea is the most important idea in a piece of writing. It's the idea that was so interesting that it got the author to sit down and start writing. It's the thing the readers keep reading to learn more about. It appears throughout a piece of writing from the beginning to the end. Developing a central idea. The author conveys the central idea by choosing details that help the writer understand it better. When an author presents details that explain the central idea, he or she is developing the central idea. That just means offering the reader more facts or details that expand the central idea. Think about the central idea as an umbrella over the whole piece. Everything important in the piece is covered by the central idea. Anything not about the central idea is repelled or rolls off. Here's an example. Monarch butterflies are travelers. Every fall they migrate in big flocks from the Great Lakes region of the U.S. and Canada to the evergreen forests of central Mexico. Along the way, they can fly as fast as 25 miles per hour and as high as 11,000 feet. The trip isn't a short one either. By the time they reach Mexico, those big flocks of butterflies have traveled approximately 2,500 miles. So the central idea of this passage is that monarch butterflies are travelers. The writers develop it by including relevant details like they migrate from the U.S. to Mexico, they fly 25 miles per hour, they fly up to 11,000 feet, they fly 2,500 miles. Remember, every detail should relate to the central idea in some way. If a detail doesn't relate to the central idea, take it out. What is an argument? An argument is a piece of writing where the author tries to convince the reader to agree with his or her central idea. The author sticks to the central idea throughout the piece and includes reasons and evidence for believing in that idea. Here's an example. "You shouldn't borrow my shoes," she told her sister. "But I always let you borrow my things," she replied. "Yeah, but there aren't even any frogs in Spain," she replied. "That argument doesn't make any sense. The girl is most likely wrong. For one thing, there are probably some frogs somewhere in Spain, but that doesn't matter, because the girl is breaking the first rule of having an argument. She's not sticking with her central idea. If you don't stick to the central idea, you can't argue successfully." Developing an argument. An argument is more than just a disagreement. In a disagreement, people can simply make claims or states that something is the case without any reason. Here's an example. "Well, the shoes are mine too." "No, they're not." "Yes, they are." "No, they are not." Evidence and reason. An argument goes beyond claims in an argument. A claim is backed up with reason and evidence. There are viable facts and details that support the claim. Reason is reasonable logic that persuades others to agree with the idea. Example. "No, they're mine." "No, they're not. I bought them." That's a reason. "And I can show you the receipt." That's the evidence. So you can't simply state a claim and leave it at that. To fully develop an argument, you must offer your reason or reasons and information that support your point. Example. The fundamental principle of a republic is a speech Anna Howard Shaw gave in New York City in 1915. Her claim was that women should have the right to vote. She reasoned that if women cannot vote, then the state of New York is not a republic. Her evidence was the definition of a republic. Now, what is a republic? Take your dictionary, encyclopedia, lexicon, or anything else you like, and look up the definition, and you'll find that a republic is a form of government in which the laws are enacted by representatives elected by the people. Shaw builds the foundation of her argument on evidence, the definition of a republic. Now, when did the people of New York ever elect their own representatives? Never in the world! The men of New York have, and I grant you that men are pretty admirable people as far as they go, but they only go halfway. She lays out her reasoning by noting that New York does not fit the definition of a republic because only men get to vote, and they are only half of the population. There is still another half of the people who have not elected representatives, and you never read a definition of a republic in which half of the people elect representatives to govern the whole of the people. She returns to her evidence and reiterates her reasoning. New York does not meet the basic requirement for being a republic because not everyone can vote. Without reasoning and evidence, Shaw's claim would not stand up on its own or win a debate. She also remained consistent throughout by tying everything back to her central idea. Women should have the right to vote. Do you know that? And Black trans lives matter, Trump, if you're watching this. Evidence and reasoning plays on ethos, credibility, pathos, emotion, and logos, logic. You can argue in different ways for different reasons. For example, if you are trying to convince your parents of something versus trying to convince a lawmaker of something versus trying to convince your best friend of something, you would use tones, word choices, analogies, and more. By tweaking your argument to have the appropriate credible information, emotional impact, and logic, you can more effectively convince your reader. Tone in argument. The way an author writes about a subject and how he or she creates the mood of the piece can also affect whether or not a reader is persuaded. All of the tools that fiction and nonfiction writers use can help set a tone in an argument and win over the audience too, such as word choice, choosing just the right word to express your message exactly, figurative meaning, using language that's not strictly literal, connotative meaning, thinking about how a word is usually used and how that affects make it what it means, analogies, comparing two things that are alike, allusions, referring to other cultural works. Word choice. The words you choose can make your argument weaker or stronger. Example, that book is good, versus that book is fast-paced and full of fascinating descriptions so you can't stop reading. Simply writing that something is good doesn't tell the reader much about it or why the writer thinks it is good and why the reader of the argument should agree. However, in the second example, the author carefully chooses specific words that get to the heart of what is unique and why it matters. Fast pace, fascinating descriptions, and can't stop reading. Because of word choice, we know exactly what makes the book so good, and we are more persuaded to read it ourselves. Analogies. An analogy can help people imagine more clearly what you're saying. Example, I don't think it is a good idea to take this step without more preparation. Versus taking this step without more preparation is like jumping out of an airplane without a parachute. Suddenly, the author has everyone's attention. Everyone knows just how bad an idea he or she thinks it is, and what the consequences might be. Evaluating arguments. How do you know if an argument is good or not? Go back to the definition of an argument. Reasoning to evidence. To have a strong argument that can withstand a debate, the reasoning and evidence must be strong too. Sound reasoning. When reasoning is strong, we call it sound. Reasoning is sound if all of its parts are true, and it leads us to the conclusion we were aiming for. A sound reasoning example. Some people report feeling cramps when they go swimming immediately after eating, so swimming must cause stomach aches. In the example above, one thing does come after the next, but the reasoning isn't sound because there isn't enough to prove that swimming causes stomach aches. Lots of other things could cause them, like a fear of water or getting seasick. Sound reasoning example. If a person is planning to be on the sun, he or she should wear sunscreen. The sun emits powerful rays that can damage skin and ultimately cause cancer, even when it doesn't cause a visible burn. But multiple studies have proven that sunscreen protects skin both from burns and from sun damage that may be initially invisible. The argument that people should wear sunscreen is supported by sound reasoning and evidence. The reasoning is sound because there's a strong relationship between not wearing sunscreen and sun damage, which is supported by scientific evidence. Relevant and irrelevant evidence. Sound reasonings rely on strong evidence. Evidence is strong if it supports the argument and closely relates to the central idea of an argument. We call that relevant evidence. Irrelevant evidence is information that is not connected to the central argument. Relevant evidence is the body of facts and information that support the central argument. Irrelevant evidence is a body of facts and information that are not connected to the central argument. Example: if you are arguing that the piece of blueberries is expensive compared to that of other fruit, the following is relevant evidence: the price of blueberries, the price of strawberries compared to the price of blueberries. 3. A conversion of the price is of a pound of cherries into a pint of cherries so that the price can be compared of that of blueberries. Irrelevant evidence: the way you feel about blueberries, the price of blueberry pie, not a fruit, any information about the time you won a blueberry pie eating contest. Comparing authors and arguments. The perspective of an author can change the way he or she writes a story, and the same is true for an argument. Depending on an author's background and purpose, he or she may use different reasonings to make an argument, emphasize different aspects of the argument, present different facts and support the argument. Example: these two authors have different perspectives and thus different arguments on whether the school should sell sugary drinks to students. Say No to Sugary Drinks by Vanessa Victorinox. When we're thirsty, we shouldn't have to deal with additives like flavoring, caffeine, and sugar. We should be able to reach for the one thing we actually need: water. That's Vanessa's central idea. We are all made up of water. About 60% of our body mass is water. That's sound evidence. Our bodies use water to carry nutrients to cells, so it's no wonder we get thirsty. That's an important job. That's sound reasoning also. Lakes and rivers aren't filled with soda because soda isn't a basic requirement for life. That's more reasoning. Water is. The National Center for Health Statistics report that sugary drinks have been linked to poor diet quality, weight gain, obesity, and in adults, type 2 diabetes. So why would we put vending machines full of them in our schools? Let's stay healthy together by drinking pure water. That's more sound evidence than the poor thing. I forgot to tell you that. We Deserve a Choice by Sam Sweeting. We're all made up of a lot of water. Same fact used in Vanessa's argument, but Sam uses this detail to oppose Vanessa. But we're not just water. That's the opposing argument. What makes us special is the parts of us that aren't just water, the special flavor that makes each one of us who we are. This idea isn't supported with facts. That's why I like soda from time to time. The bubbles and flavor make the day more interesting. This isn't particularly relevant. Some of the drinks contain sugar, but some contain fruit juices or are fortified with vitamins. They provide calories, which everyone needs for energy. That's sound evidence. Furthermore, it's important that I get to make my own choice, even about things like drinking water or soda. Making a good decision is part of growing up. If you ever give me a choice to make, how can I learn how to make a good one? That's sound reasoning. Sound argument checklist. There's a claim. The claim is supported by evidence and reason. The tone is persuasive. Consider word choice, figurative meaning, connotative meaning, analogies, and allusions. Everything relates to the central idea. All of the facts are true. The reasoning is sound. All of the evidence is relevant. Here's a quiz to see if you've been paying attention. True or false? The central idea of an argument can't be found in the details. True or false? A central idea only appears in one place in a text, not throughout the whole thing. True or false? A claim is a statement that is not supported by reason or evidence. True or false? An argument is a statement that is supported by reason or evidence. Read this passage. Is it an example of sound reasoning? Why or why not? Upon investigating the scene, the detective found a book with the student's name written in it. Based on this discovery, he concluded that the student herself must have been at the scene. Read this passage, then write your own counter-argument using one of the facts that the author uses in the passage. Studies have shown that students learn more when their class sizes are smaller. The classic interpretation for this is the teachers that are able to spend more time with each student and give each student more specialized instructions. But what about the things students learn from each other? Bigger class sizes aren't fashionable, but the other students in a class, the more perspectives each student can gain from. It's not just the teacher who does the teaching. 7. True or false? Two authors making arguments about the same topic must use all the same facts. True or false? An author might choose to use in particular words in order to set the tone of an argument. 9. True or false? Irrelevant evidence doesn't support the argument. Pause the video now to think of the answers for yourself. On to the answers. 1. False. 2. False. 3. True. 4. True. 5. No. Someone else might have written the student's name in the book or taken the book to the scene. Number 6. Number 6 has more than one correct answer, just in case you didn't know. Studies have shown that smaller class sizes benefit students. Some argue that a larger class size offers greater diversity of perspectives among the student body. But with too many students in class, not all of those perspectives will get heard. That's why studies show that learning decreases as class sizes grow. Students learn best from each other and from a teacher in smaller groups. 7. False. 8. True. 9. True. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so that way you won't miss any of my new episodes. This is Brody signing out.